You always hear about the dreaded clock capacitor that's in these original Xboxes and how they can destroy the motherboard. Well, I chose this Xbox out of our stock in specific to go over that today, and I'll show you why. There's a few reasons that I chose this Xbox in particular, the manufacture date being one of them. Here we have a 2002 manufacture date. This coincides with the capacitor plague that absolutely plagued these original Xboxes along with many other devices back in the day. And also, this one has never been opened. So let's get into this. Well, let's test it first, make sure it even turns on, and then we'll go from there and see what we got to do. Okay, it's plugged in. I don't have an AV cable plugged in right now, but I just want to make sure it powers on, and it's going to flash orange and green without that cable. Yep, so at least it's powering on. Let's get this open up and see what kind of damage we have inside and what might need to be done to refurbish a unit like this. And to open up the original Xbox, what we're going to be looking at is a Torx 20. And I have a nice iFixit driver here with the Torx 20 ready to go. And they're located 4 underneath these pads, these little like stop pads here. And then there are 2, one here and one here underneath these stickers. So let's get that done. Always the perfect fit. Yes. And some people will heat up the stickers and remove them, then redo the adhesive. I do not do that. I just go around in a circle and I just chop this out of there. And that's the end result. It looks perfectly fine. Nobody cares. Okay, I've got all the screws on the bottom taken out, and then this top piece just comes right out, and it is definitely dusty in here. And next there's 3 Torx 10 screws, one down here, one here, and then one right under that ribbon cable, and then we can get all this out. We've got the disk drive and the hard drive out of this OGX box. Definitely be careful, word of caution, open power supply. You can shock yourself, or if you drop a tool or a screw down in there, kaboom, you're not gonna have a lot of fun. So let's take a look here. Where we're gonna look on this particular revision is actually right here. And we are not disappointed. Look at all of the electrolytic fluid that has leaked out of that capacitor all over the motherboard, and that is corrosive. So this is what people are talking about that you need to replace, this cap in particular right here. And you can see the change in the colorization. See how it's darker? That's all the fluid that has run out of that capacitor all over the board. And if you let this sit long enough, it might even be that has gone through a couple components, ripped traces. I don't think so. I think we got lucky because the system does power up normally. Usually you'll get an auto power on when you plug in the cable. And then on the other revisions, it would be under here, kind of in this area. So yeah, let's get this cleaned up. Let's take a look at this once it's clean and see if there's any damage. Got the board out of the shell, a little bit cleaned up here. Now we can really see the detail of the area of effect when it comes to the corrosive electrolytic fluid that's coming out of this capacitor. Let's check it under the microscope. There's a lot of discolorization. We've got capacitors that are discolorized. We've got a lot of corrosion building up around here. We definitely need to remove the cap if we're gonna, future-proof this system in any way. And symptoms that can occur, the symptoms can range from the controller port doesn't work, to you plug in a power cable to the Xbox and it just auto powers on. You don't even have to hit the button. And then you can't hit the button to power it off. You have to unplug it every single time. Also, no power at all, just a dead system. So that little clock capacitor is very deadly to these consoles and does need to be replaced. And to be fair with you, the clock capacitor these days is pretty useless. If I'm restoring this to just like a factory default and want to sell it as just a working Xbox, not modded or anything crazy, I'll replace it at that point. Basically, it doesn't hold the charge very long anyway. If you unplug the system, put it in the closet, bring it back out a year later to play it, it's going to ask for the date and time anyway. And it would also do that within about 2 hours or less. If you unplugged it and moved it to another room, went and ate dinner and came back, it's still going to ask for the time and date. So it's just a completely useless capacitor. I'm going to replace it for a part 2 video when we get around to that. But this video just kind of highlights the erosive effects, where to find the capacitor, how to take the system apart in the basics, and just kind of what to look for and what to expect. Now, if you see a system that is around 2004 to 2005 manufacture date, usually you don't need to remove the clock capacitor, and you shouldn't remove it unless you absolutely have to and it needs to be replaced. On the 1.6 systems, the console will not power up without the clock capacitor in place, without a bypass mod to enable it to start up. So be very careful if you have a 1.6 system and you take the clock cap out, and maybe this has happened to you and you have a system you're going, no way, and you've done that and you killed your system and you have no idea why. During the restoration process you think something happened. It's probably just the fact that you removed that clock capacitor and didn't know that you shouldn't. So yeah, that hopefully gives you guys a little bit of education, and I'll see you guys in the part 2 and we'll get this replaced.